Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. My reading week started with 8 volumes of manga. What I do is every month I put in a pre-order with Book People, the great bookstore in Austin, Texas, for the following month's forthcoming volumes in the manga series that I actively follow and debut volumes of series that I would like to try out. The 8 volumes I read on Saturday were orders of magnitude the best things I read this week. I have already talked about those 8 volumes of manga in a video I posted on Monday. It was a manga wrap-up, August 8 indeed. So if you want to check out my thoughts on those 8 volumes of manga, check out that video. So for this video, I'm going to focus more on the other books that I read or attempted to read. So let's get started on that. So I'm going to start with poetry. On Sunday, I read 3 volumes of poetry, and today I read a volume of poetry. So the 3 poetry collections from Sunday were all rereads. Starting with Within the Sweet Noise of Life by Sandro Penna, translated from the Italian by Alexander Booth. This is a selected collection of Penna's poetry. They are, for the most part, incredibly short poems of just a few lines. I've enjoyed this collection. So when I've read it before, this is my 3rd reading. I really enjoyed my first reading of this collection, and I also enjoyed my 2nd reading. This 3rd reading, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the previous 2 times I read it, but it's still quite good. And then for the umpteenth time, I reread Stars in My Eyes by Edward Field. This is a poetry collection that is about film, both in how the audience reacts to film, as well as narrative poems that either take film inspiration or are about movie stars. I have had this collection on and off for 20 years, and when I read the collection 20 years ago, when I was in my 20s, I really enjoyed it. But my last 2 rereads, including this one, haven't been as good, although this most recent reread was more enjoyable than the one before. So I'm not entirely sure if... So maybe I've outgrown Edward Field, or my tastes have changed in the 20 years. But anyway, there are some pretty good poems in here. I still really enjoy Whatever Happened to Make Caspar. Stars in My Eyes, the last poem in here, is really good. So there's some good poems in here, and then there are some that are just weird. And one thing about this collection is that film stills are also included. Show you the last one, so anyway. So that was, I think, more on the disappointing side. And then I reread for the 5th or 6th time Flyover Country by Austin Smith. This is Smith's most recent collection, as far as I know. It's fantastic. I enjoyed it every much this reread as I did previous rereads. In fact, this reread went some way to calming me down from being fairly upset between reading Stars in My Eyes and Flyover Country, although that upset has nothing to do with Stars in My Eyes. Anyway, if I might talk about it later, but anyway. So I enjoyed this. So for Shorty September, they all hit the Culo prompt, which is for reading something in one sitting or all in one day. And Stars in My Eyes is from the 1970s, so it hits the Disco Pants prompt. So today I read for the first time The Octopus Game by Nicky. This is a collection of poems that feature the octopus and other cephalopods rather heavily. I did not particularly care for this collection. There really were no poems that stood out to me that I particularly liked. So this collection was definitely a dud. I read it for October because, of course, a lot of the poems in here reference octopuses. But maybe read something else for October if you're looking for something. Okay, moving on to fiction. So from Monday to Wednesday, I attempted to reread for the first time in 20 years Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This is a novel about a middle-aged, upper-middle-class woman named Mrs. Dalloway, who over the course of a day is preparing for and is having a party at her London townhome. Throughout her day, the people she encounters, the perspective of the novel shifts to some of the people she encounters, some tangentially, some more prominently and more relevantly to the overall story. There are frequent flashbacks to her childhood and young adulthood. So I read this novel 20 years ago for a class on modern and postmodern fiction. And I must say, I don't remember a damn thing about this book. Nothing. I started reading it and I had no memory of anything about this book. And honestly, as I read the book, I found myself less and less interested and enthused about the book. I didn't connect with the writing. I didn't care for the characters. It was just a slog. And I read 40 pages on Monday, only managed 20 more pages on Tuesday, and another 20 maybe on Wednesday before I decided, okay, this book is just not for me. I'm going to go ahead and give up on it, even though I'm not quite halfway through the book. So much for Mrs. Dalloway. Now, there were consequences to this. As I mentioned in my whole video earlier today, this failed reread of Mrs. Dalloway killed the momentum for my urge to add more classics canonical, to the books that I hauled in my haul today, to add more to it. Also, it has killed my enthusiasm for some of my reading plans for not only the rest of this month, but also for the rest of the year. So I'm going to talk about some of the consequences for this month and then touch on how it may possibly affect the rest of the year afterwards. So So part of why I was reading Mrs. Dalloway in September, for Shorty September, is the Bicycle Shorts prompt, which was read a book and then do a deep dive on the subject matter. So I thought, okay, I have 3 books, either by Virginia Woolf or about her. So I could do that. So in addition to Mrs. Dalloway, which is by Virginia Woolf, I was going to reread after 20 years, well, more than 20 years, The Hours by Michael Cunningham, which is in part a retelling of Mrs. Dalloway and in part a historical novel looking at Virginia Woolf herself. So, much like with Mrs. Dalloway, I don't actually remember anything about this book except for that I read it, and the sneaking suspicion that I probably didn't like it much. But since I failed to reread Mrs. Dalloway, I can't really reread The Hours. And I was also planning on reading, for the first time, Theory and Practice by Michelle de Krester, which is in part about a student coming to grips with some of the less savory aspects of Virginia Woolf. I'd also thought about doing some Bill redemption attempts during Shorty September for the Fashionista shorts, works in translation. So I was thinking about Bill redeeming The Words That Remain by Stenio Gardel, translated from the Portuguese by Bruna Dantas Lobato. This is about a man who, when he was younger, had an intense relationship with a young man from a neighboring farm. When this relationship ended through violence, the lover left the main character a letter. Unfortunately, the main character is illiterate, and it is throughout the course of this novel that the main character learns to read so that he can read this letter from his former lover. And I was thinking maybe give Paradais by Fernanda Melchor, translated from the Spanish by Sophie Hughes, yet another Bell read attempt, another Bell redemption. This is about 2 young men, an incel and his friend, who do something horrible at some point in the novel. I have never gotten to that point yet. I can barely manage a chapter. I really don't get on with this novel. I don't know why I keep trying, but I do. Anyway. So, I'm putting the brakes on all of those books. And I will be putting them back on the shelves after this video. So what I'm not entirely sure about is how this momentum killer, this enthusiasm killer, is going to affect some of my other plans for the rest of the year. I've mentioned a few times that I'm thinking October would be Dickens versus Trollope. And in December, I was hoping to do a double Remember December and Bell Redemption December, which were booktube events from 2 years ago that the original hosts, I think, did not return to last year. But since I really enjoyed the events, I decided to do them on my own. And I was going to focus on fiction, poetry, and drama. And maybe nonfiction as well. But now I'm not entirely sure what I want to do. So I will report back when it comes time to do my monthly reading plans on exactly what I want to do. Or be mindful to give myself options if this lack of enthusiasm continues on. So yesterday, I decided to finally read How to Paint Portraits in Pastel by Joe Singer. This is an art how-to book that is focused on pastel. Pastel is an artistic medium in which pigment is compressed in using a binder into little chalks or crayons shaped. And you can use these pastels to paint and draw with. I decided to read this book for Framed in September, which is a book to prevent dedicated to reading art books or art-related books. Unfortunately, I really don't get on with art instructional books. And I really should have remembered that when I decided to add both this book and Painting Brilliant Skies and Water and Pastel by Liz Haywood-Sullivan to my September reading plan, because I don't really like them. Some aspects of the books will be different, but they're also a slog, and they're also very much the same because they cover the same subjects. There's always the introduction, what is pastel, what kinds of pastels are there, what kind of surfaces you can use pastel on, so on and so forth. So it gets tedious, and I don't really learn this way, I guess. So, this was a mistake. But I do want to show you some paintings from these two collections for Shorty September. Unfortunately, a lot of these are in black and white, but there are a few in color in this one. So this one is really nice. I really like this one. It's The Hippie by Daniel E. Green. And I also really like this one too, which is Blue Shades by Harvey Dinnerstein. So yeah. I'll put you down here. And from Painting Brilliant Skies and Water, see here, which Liz Haywood-Sullivan is one of my favorite artists. So anyway, okay. So put these guys up. So what will I be reading this coming reading week? I think I'm going to vote this reading week to October. So over the course of the weekend, I'm going to try to reread Squid by Martin Wallen and Octopus by Richard Schweid. These are part of the Reaction Animal series. And I remember really liking Squid. Octopus, not so much. But I haven't really gotten on with the Reaction Animal series for a while, so I don't know exactly how that's going to work out. And then over the course of the work week, I'm going to read The Lives of Octopuses and Their Relatives by Danna Staaf. And hopefully I enjoy that as well. Or enjoy it, period. Anyway, so that's my reading week. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now, and I will be back with new videos. Hopefully I'll be able to get some videos every day next week. But we shall see. There are still some videos I would like to make, that I am struggling with. So I'll see if I can finally get around to making those videos. So anyway, BookTube, thank you. Have a great rest of your evening and have a great weekend. And until I see you next time, stay safe.